As the conflict between Israel and Hamas Palestinian militants escalates, attention is turning to the possibility of war crimes. Hamas gunmen rampaged through Israeli towns, gunning down civilians in their homes, on the streets and at a rave. Scores were abducted and taken to Gaza. In response, Israel has imposed a siege on Gaza it says will last until all its hostages are freed, and unleashed a powerful bombing campaign, vowing to annihilate Hamas. US President Joe Biden says Israel has a right and duty to respond, but he has also said,
"It is really important that Israel, with all the anger, frustration, and just, I don't know how to explain it, that exists, is that they operate by the rules of war."
Those rules emerged from the 1949 Geneva Conventions. So, do they apply here? International humanitarian law governs the treatment of civilians, soldiers, and prisoners of war. It applies to state armies like Israel's and to organised armed groups like Hamas.
This feeling of being cut out or cut off from the world.
Maha Husseini is a Gaza-based journalist.
I think we are facing complete isolation, especially after Israel imposed severe siege on Gaza and bombed even the border areas.
A siege can be considered a war crime if it targets civilians, rather than being a legitimate means to undermine Hamas's military capabilities, or if it is found to be disproportionate. Military attacks must not lead to an excessive loss of civilian life. An Israeli defense lawyer at the International Criminal Court cited Hamas's gruesome killings of civilians as an obvious focus for a war crimes case. Which of these acts could be war crimes? New York-based Human Rights Watch cites as possible war crimes the deliberate targeting of civilians, indiscriminate rocket attacks, and the taking of civilians as hostages by Palestinian armed groups, as well as Israel's strikes on Gaza that have killed hundreds of Palestinians.
We are hearing the reports of entire families, innocents, who were killed in the safety of their homes.
The taking of hostages, murder and torture are explicitly banned under the Geneva Conventions. Israel's response could also be subject to a war crimes investigation. Defense Minister Yoav Gallant announced a tightened blockade to prevent food and fuel from reaching the Gaza Strip, which is home to 2.3 million people. He drew criticism from UN officials and human rights groups. Gallant also vowed to wipe Hamas off the face of the earth, amid growing expectations that Israel will launch a ground invasion.